Welcome along everyone to Silverstone. Britain has returned the highest number of F1 World Champions of any country that's taken part in this glorious sport. We take our racing very seriously here, as you can tell here today at the British Grand Prix. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And starting next to them is George Russell. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Leclerc, Andrea Kimi Antonelli, and Piastri, Norris, Tsunoda, Hadjar, and Alex Albon, Stroll, Lawson, Carlos Sainz, and Fernando Alonso, Hülkenberg, Bortoleto, Esteban Ocon, and Jack Doohan. Behrman, and Pierre Gasly picks up the final grid slot. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track. And alongside me today, former Formula One driver and former world champion too. See, told you I'd give you a big intro. Anthony Davidson, hello. I know what we've got to do before the start of today's race, but what about our driver? What do the final hours look like for them?
Well, for them, you've got your pre-race rituals that you go through. You see different drivers that, some have got their headphones on, they're listening to the music. Some drivers really absorb the energy from the crowd and they're there waving to them. Other drivers, they go within themselves. They chat to their engineers, absorbing that information, that vital information that you need to carry you through the race. And, those pre-race rituals are essential to making things systematic. We do a lot of Grand Prix in a season, and the more systematic you can be, the easier you are within that environment.
Radio check, radio check.
Radio check.
Now use DRS. DRS now available. No need to worry about the tyre condition for now. Everything's looking good. Come on, you can win that place back. Watch out for understeer in the wake of the car ahead. Try to get past as quickly as you can. Push, push. Gap to your teammate behind, 2.0 seconds.
Checkered flag.
Fantastic effort today, this weekend, guys. Thank you so much for continuing to push.
And the best of British and the best on the track. It's George Russell who wins.
to come here and take victory as a team today on home soil was so important. You can see how much it means to them. The drivers there doing their part, the team's strategy was perfect as well, and the fans really embraced that. What a great atmosphere we had here today.
From lights out to the checkered flag, each and every driver has this moment in the back of their mind. Now it's time for their celebrations. Our podium, it awaits. And taking his place on the top step of the podium, he gave it some hustle. Well done to George Russell. After an event like that, who knows what the sport has in store for us next time out? Be sure to join us once again as we continue to bring you all the excitement of Formula One.